Hey everyone, welcome back, it's Biggs. Now you remember a couple videos ago, we did that background on how to completely fail at doing a background? I just had to be in essence of transparency. I want to show you guys the positives and the negatives of everything I do. Well, the real background's here, the one that worked out. So let's take a peek on how this beautiful background was made. So we immediately went back to the tickle trunk, found a bunch of new styrofoam, and we got back to it again. Let's see what it turns into. All right, to get started, we cut up those brand new sheets, all into nice little even pieces. Cut up all the scraps, and we started dry fitting it into the tank. Like the way it looked. Play around with it a little bit, and then we're going to silicone them all together. Sandwich them all together, make nice big bricks. We're not siliconing it to the tank just yet. We're doing these things in two sections because of the braces on the top. That's the only way we could fit it into the aquarium. Here's a quick look at the whole thing before we take it outside. So you can see this is the left side. We cut it down a little bit to fit under that notch in the aquarium. The thing that supports the filter. So it just looks like a bunch of junk right now, a bunch of styrofoam. Now there's the piece. We cut it kind of at a regular angle to make it look like a rock fisher. So we can put the two pieces into the tank. And then when we get to this corner, we're going to completely conceal the overflow for the filter. So it's going to be all sorts of definition to that. Maybe kind of like a nice little cave there. Now we'll be able to take it outside. That's where the magic will really start to happen. Here's where the fun really starts to happen. All the carving. You use your fingers, your hand, heat knives, all sorts of stuff. I like to use either a screwdriver or a chisel or just something that I can manipulate close and tight with my hands. And honestly, you can't really mess this up, short of breaking it. You chip it away bit by bit till you're happy with the look, the desired look you're trying to get. Make it look as natural as possible, create little caves and fissures. And then we're going to go and soften that edge and give it a nice hard shell afterwards in the next process. So take your time, step back, have a look at it. It's all coming together. So now I think you can really start to see the textures coming out. I think I'm going to break this down a little bit so it tapers up a little bit. Got a nice big boulder. All these little tiny bits of sharp edges, they're going to disappear real quick in the next step. Really give it that nice depth. And then because we have this one fissure where it's going to overlap from the other piece, I created a few other fissures along the same sort of line so it looks like the rock is breaking apart. And now we move on to the other side of the aquarium, the right side, the one with that overflow box. That little thing in the middle there, maybe we'll turn that into a nice big boulder or a cave. Just use your imagination, have fun with it. Sure is messy. It's all coming together. Well, the aftermath, as you can see, it's a bit of a mess. But here's the outcome. So this is the right side piece. Again, all these random little pieces here, these little sharper edges, they will all vanish pretty quickly once we put the heat gun on it. Tapered it right up to the top, blended all the rocks part out. Again, created more fissures within the rocks to make it look like it blends in. And we've completely wrapped and concealed that overflow box. Now the next step is using an industrial heat gun. Be cautious, this thing does generate excessive heat and it can be dangerous. Make sure you use it in a well-vented area. Gentle passes gives you a nice result and it gives it a nice hard skin ready for finish. Now after the heat gun, we start applying our skin coats. And our skin coats, I use a product that's called hydraulic cement or Quickcrete. It's a very, very thin mixture and you can add dyes and things to give different levels of texture. And I apply several thin coats. You start seeing what the details start really coming out. You can fill in small little gaps and little fissures and stuff that may show the seams between different layers of styrofoam.
Adding different dyes, as mentioned, gives different colors and so forth. I'm using a charcoal dye because I wanted to keep that nice dark texture. And I think overall we applied almost 4 layers. Each layer does make it a little bit heavier. That will take away some of the buoyancy. But each layer also builds up the textures within. Now you can see the final piece. My vision come to life. My first true DIY, start to finish that is, background. Well, I guess maybe more importantly, maybe for aquarium use, because we've built many of them for vivariums and terrariums, but never one that's intended to be fully submerged. So now we're going to go and install it in the tank. I use aquarium grade silicone. I mentioned I did it in 2 pieces because we have to contest with dealing with those braces as well as that corner overflow box. So we get them in there, we dry fit them, make sure everything's good, apply nice generous beads of silicone on the backs and bottom, apply it in place, and then in this corner here on the overflow box I used a towel and some pieces of styrofoam just to make sure that it adhered really well in that one little area because it had a little bit of a bow to it. But here's the final product. There's the overflow. Now the last thing I went and did is I went and did a thin bead covering the entire top and all the outside seams of it. Along the bottom, along the top. And on the bottom, I also went in turn and used some of the gravel and stuff that I'm going to do, the substrates I'm going to be using within the tank, and that just is going to conceal that. Then I had a few areas where I thought might just add a little bit more texture. Some of the areas that may catch some substrate or substrate would land if a fish would stir it up. And I just smeared a little bit of silicone with my gloved hand and applied a bit of gravel. Now this is the long and slow process, the filling and letting it sit to cure. By curing, what we're doing is we're going to be leaching all that lime product out of the cement. You'll see in a moment that it starts to build up along the bottom of the thing. We did this about 3 times until the water tested out neutral.
Okay, you can see it really starting to come together now. It's starting to look a lot better. And the most important thing is all this stuff you see on the bottom, this is all the lime that's been removed. So I'm just using my Python and getting rid of all that product. This is only the first soaking. I figure I may as well, with this much product on the bottom, I may as well go and clean it up, refill it again. We're just going to use well water again, let it sit again. Now, just for fun, to give you guys a bit of a reference, I just used one of these quick test strips, but you can see the pH and the hardness are absolutely off the scale, which is why it's so important to be doing these leaching process.
And there you have it. My completed, start to finish, DIY internal background, rocky background for my CONGO cichlid tank. I'm absolutely in love with it. It was a rather easy project. Anyone could tackle it. It was inexpensive. I would do this again in a heartbeat. Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed today's video. It was an absolute blast to make. And as always, thank you kindly. Take care.